Hello and welcome to Patched. I'm your host Paul James, and today I'm joined by Matto Phillips. How are you, mate?
As always.
Another week. Damo's still not back. It's about time we acknowledge that fact. He's dead.
The fact is, we don't know
Nice
when
big
he's going to
applause.
come back.
Really nice
He'll
big applause.
He'll just turn up.
Yeah, 1 week unannounced to us even. He'll just jump into the call, and all of a sudden I have to scramble and reframe everything, and it'll be an absolute shit show. He'll start talking about updates from about 3 months worth of games, and it won't even be an updates episode. It'll be all over the place. It's gonna be great viewing and listening.
There's just be an episode about Damo.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
Where have you been?
We'll even call it, patched, I don't know, 169 or whatever it is, the Damo episode.
Where in the world is Damien Camilleri?
Well, it works pretty well actually that title. I'll go with that. So this week, there's been a whole bunch of news relating to Marvel's Avengers and the War for Wakanda DLC expansion that's kind of coming soon. What they're kind of hoping will kind of salvage the game. It's also been the 5-year anniversary of No Man's Sky this week, and so what we kind of thought we'd do is take a bit of a look at some of these.
Years.
Yeah, 5 years since that horrible launch. And that is actually kind of the core focus of the episode. We're going to kind of look at games like No Man's Sky, like Final Fantasy XIV, like Avengers that didn't come out of the gates all that hot. In fact, some cases it was an absolute travesty. And kind of look at what they've done to kind of salvage that, this trend that we're kind of seeing in terms, especially kind of online games. Some of these games being actually salvaged and saved. And then we'll kind of cast an eye back to Avengers and see whether they might actually have a chance. As myself, someone who played the game to the end of the campaign and maybe an hour or two of multiplayer afterwards. Matto, you didn't play it at all. We can kind of look at it through a couple different lenses there and see what we think of everything that's coming up. But before we get to Avengers, let's cycle back to this trend of games in recent years, probably starting with No Man's Sky. I think it's the one that everyone's kind of deferring to these days when we kind of hear these redemption arc stories. Did you play No Man's Sky when it first came out? Or did you follow the hype for it in the lead up?
I followed the hype for it. The guy who was in charge of it was talking it up.
Yeah,
He
Sean
was like,
Murray.
you get to do this and that. Oh, you get to go to space and all that. And like, oh yeah, sounds like a fun game. Then watch this. There was this TV show back in the day. It was called Good Game.
And they said it was a very bad game.
And they reviewed it and they said, very bad game. I thought, okay, they're not fans of it. Then I looked on the internet, and everyone agreed it was a very good game.
Yeah,
Everything that guy said did not exist.
yeah. It was a bit of a lie. He was talking about there being multiplayer and no multiplayer, and there's basically no chance because the universe or galaxy or whatever universe was so vast, you'd never be able to meet up with anyone. And guess what happened on day one? Two people met up on a planet. They kind of entered the same space. So
Owned.
that didn't go overly well for them. There was a lot of things they promised that they didn't come through on. Basically straight up lied in a fair few cases there. Really deceptive marketing. And I think they got themselves into a pretty shitty spot. Like they clearly... I mean, the whole story with No Man's Sky began, I think it was 2013, I'm going to say. Jeff Keighley got a hold of the game and premiered it at the Game Awards in that year, or I guess the VGX or whatever the hell they called it back in the day, back when Spike was still running it, and it was even more advertising than there is now. They announced it there and people just lost their shit. And I was one of them. It seemed like a really, really cool concept. And then Sony kind of swept in afterwards and threw some marketing dollars at it. They wanted to kind of pull it in and make it not exclusive, though it was for I think maybe a year or something like that. They just a bit of financial support and marketing dollars and all those sorts of things. So they really got around it. And I think it was that component that kind of caused them a bit of a problem, where they started over-promising. They started showing a lot of the same footage, but made big promises, and then just got themselves into a knot that they couldn't unravel. But then I guess we kind of spoke about the game wasn't so great at launch, and I played it, was pretty underwhelmed. I think I enjoyed it for about a day. In fact, I had a lot of really positive things to say. There was an article I put together on the Players 2 website that was really positive for like my first day in it. It's a shame I didn't write that maybe 2 or 3 days in instead. and my
Things would have changed very quickly.
yeah. But the story about this game since has been amazing in terms of like I think they're rolling into their 20th big update now. Like not just normal here's a patch, but like their big core update. They've added VR modes. They've added a whole bunch of the stuff they promised before, and then they've just been piling stuff on top of it. The whole story's been amazing. Have you followed it much in the years since?
Not really. I did play it for a little bit, not much, because I don't know, I wasn't really feeling it. But it might be because I didn't play a big amount of it. Maybe if I played a little bit more, things may have changed. But
You've still got fonder memories than I do, then.
yeah, well, I played it like a year or two ago, not
Yeah.
5 years, not 5 years ago.
Yeah, by last year it was a good game.
I say, trust me, if it was like you 5 years ago and it was a bad game, I would try to forget about it too. So don't you worry about that. It's like me with Cyberpunk at the moment. It's like I want to forget everything about that game for now.
Well, see, that's another game, and I guess I said online before, but Cyberpunk doesn't fit that mold. That's one of those games that they're trying, and I think CD Projekt Red hopes can have one of those sort of redemption arcs as well. May as well kind of quickly sidestep into that one. Do you think that's possible in the case of Cyberpunk?
I don't know, because even now there's still problems with it. There's still no people on the streets. There's
technical stuff that they just can't get past.
Yeah, and even when they do updates,
On the console space.
Yeah, console space. When they do updates or patches, hot fixes, whatever it is, the fixes are like a novel. They're huge. Yeah. It's ridiculous. You just scratch your head and go, yeah, maybe they should have talked about it or released it. Or
6 months later would have been good. Maybe,
but still.
I mean, the interesting one is, and this is kind of their marketing side of things and, what they put out to investors and all that sort of stuff. They've still got the PS5 and Series X kind of native versions that are on the way. And at least as of last reporting, they're still planning on getting that out this year, I think. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen. If I was there, might be staying, kind of keep my head down right until you're ready to say, hey, it's coming out on this date, and say nothing else until then. But I feel like with them, and you compare that to, say, No Man's Sky or even Final Fantasy 14 as another prominent example of a game that kind of saved itself. That it seems like they're just trying to brush the PS4 and Xbox One versions under the rug, like focus on the PC version, focus on the PS5 and Xbox Series X, and once those versions come out, look how good it is. We've told you it was good, and just ignore the fact that the PS4 and Xbox One versions sold 10 million copies at least, not each, but 10 million copies at least of those two versions of the game, and they're still going to be broken, buggy messes because they simply can't run. Like, it was too much for those consoles.
You also got to remember too that it was delayed almost a year, and still, if it's still buggy then why even bother saying, maybe we should release this on the next gen console, or
is
maybe
that one
like
they should
it's
persist with, or just get your PS5 and Xbox Series X versions out and then just piss off, go make The Witcher 4?
Or don't know. It's gonna piss off. Well, it depends really, because can you upgrade from your shitty PS4 version up? Well, that's the case then sure. But then again, there is the problem of lack of.
You can't get
PS5s
and Xbox Series X's. Yeah, it's a weird sort of space there. Where people even if the better version's available, they still can't access it.
It's a bit of a pickle.
Yeah, because
those damn scalpers are taking everything.
I feel like, and this says a lot about the consumers, and I guess I still fall in this camp a little bit myself. I think they probably know that no matter what people, like, no matter how much people hate them right now for Cyberpunk or whatever, as soon as they come out and say, here's The Witcher 4 and show it off and whatever, people are just gonna they're not necessarily gonna lose their minds like you maybe would have expected had this whole thing not happened. But by the time The Witcher 4 comes out, every single one of those burnt Cyberpunk people, unless they're just straight up not into The Witcher to begin with, like, the fantasy setting's not them. Anyone who's kind of into both or liked The Witcher beforehand, they're 100% just going to jump on, because they're suckers for the IP. The Witcher 3 is still, in my opinion, the best game of the last generation. I think we're all just, well, most people, sorry, I shouldn't speak for everyone. Most people will just go, sure, here's my money. Like, go for it. Give me another Geralt adventure or Ciri or whatever they do next time around.
Yeah.
Would that be fair?
Well, can be for all those Witcher people. There's also the whole TV series as well. People
Yeah,
are
that's
getting
helped.
into, which has probably helped. And well, no one really knows about the books until after. Like me, I didn't know about the books till about after The Witcher 2. Like, wait, they're books?
Yeah, they were based on books. What? Yeah.
Based on books? Since when is a game based on books? I've never heard such silliness ever. You
I
can't
mean,
really count
Lord of the Rings games, but that's about the extent of it, really. Harry Potter games, but they're all licensed things. So
Oh, movies before that.
yeah, and actually, yeah, even the Harry Potter games are based on the Harry Potter movies as opposed to the books. So yeah, good point. And yeah, I think you're right though. 100%. Like the majority of people had no idea that they were based on books until they either played the game or learnt about the TV series.
Well, we should say Danish books. Are they word Danish?
No, not Danish.
Oh, no.
Aren't they from Finland? No.
Oh, no. We don't know our Scandinavian countries. Oh, dear.
I'm gonna mix. I'm
Norway,
fairly
Norway,
sure they're from Finland.
Sweden,
CD
Denmark,
Project.
Finland.
They're Poland.
Polish.
Sorry,
not even
not Finland.
Not
Poland.
even close. I was talking about the books,
Europe.
not the company.
They're Europe. No, they're all Polish. All Polish.
Oh, Polish books.
Yeah, the author's Polish as well.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, that makes sense then.
I just knew that wherever CD Projekt was, that's where the author was from.
That would make perfect sense.
Yeah, the franchise was huge locally, and they took that and adapted it.
Yeah, why would a Danish person want to or a Polish and a Danish like company like
yeah,
I don't know, yeah, something like that. Yeah, let's not get into
pairings.
Nationalities here.
And national politics. That's only going to end badly for us. I can see the downvotes coming already.
So
I'm not even trying to say anything wrong.
The upside down Indonesian flag. That's Poland. I could be wrong there too.
I'm not gonna wade into that one. I have no idea. I don't know their flag. I know the Indonesian one. I can't picture the Polish one. You're googling this now, aren't you?
No.
So I mean that is an interesting example, and obviously it's a bit like Avengers. That is still kind of a work in progress at the moment, as to see what happens with that story. There's a whole bunch of others as well. Final Fantasy 14 was in terms of like the Cyberpunk story. I mean,
oh right, I was gonna say I thought that came out 2 years ago. It's still a work in progress.
No, the Cyberpunk story is still kind of a work in progress, like Avengers is. I guess the other big one, a bit like No Man's Sky, that everyone talks about is Final Fantasy 14. Now, you not being the Final Fantasy fan, I suspect you didn't really follow the story of it much at all. They promised big, as you'd expect from Square Enix and a Final Fantasy game. It was meant to be an MMO. I'm sure you probably at least know about it these days. That Final Fantasy 14 is an MMO. And actually today, as I was bringing stuff in, as I'm continuing to fill up this space, I found my old PS3 version that still to this day I've not played of the game. I've now got I've now got it installed on my PS5, ready to start sometime soon. So, how far we've come. But anyway, they promised huge, and the Metacritic score. I mean, I'll check it to be like the exact number, but it was like 20 or 30 or something horrible like that. Like, it was an absolute joke. Like the quests were horrific, buggy.
That's almost Superman territory.
It was that sort of level of bad.
That's not good company, that's for sure.
Yeah, you don't want to be in that. And basically got to the point where like Square Enix, I mean, they ultimately had to make a decision: do we stick with this or do we not? No, sorry, I'll take it back. The Final Fantasy 14 online Metacritic is 49, so it's not Superman bad, but it's pretty awful.
It's bad.
And so basically the game got a whole rework, and it took 4 years. Where basically like, hey, the game exists, and if you want to play you want to play the game, feel free, but like it's like Square Enix basically just saying it's shit, and like we'll fix this, don't worry. And a lot of, Japanese country, a lot of long bows and all those sorts of things that signs of kind of deep apology and that sort of thing. That's how things work. Think back to the PlayStation 3 hack from all those years ago. That it, like the length of the bow, like how long you bow, apparently in Japanese culture is like representative of how like deeply sorry or like apologetic you are. It was a very long bow for the PS3 one.
Yeah, all I was thinking about was the Nintendo Direct when they first introduced themselves. Like, hello, so and so. They just do a small bow. And
Yeah, they
just
might do a little thing, but
continue
and
on,
that's
and just
that's
continue
obviously
on.
it's not just for apologies, but when you are being apologetic, you hold that bow for a long, long time. And that's exactly what Sony did, and I'm sure that's what a lot of people at Square Enix were doing. But anyway, yeah, 4 years it took before they called it, Final Fantasy 14 a Realm Reborn. Like they straight up just even in the title said, hey, this thing is rebuilt. It's totally new. This is the game that we want it to be. And now it's shooting the lights out. And Final Fantasy 14, especially with what's going on with Blizzard at the moment, is the biggest MMO in the world by a long, long way.
Oh, really?
Well, maybe not a long, long way, but it is the buzz MMO at the moment, and it's been growing since 2014. It really took off in probably the last 3 years, and then this year, it just even greater heights. And then the Blizzard thing's been like a cherry on top for them, where they've not been doing any social media stuff or anything like that, but it's all these kind of burnt World of Warcraft players that are looking for something new, and the next biggest franchise out there is Final Fantasy 14, and everyone's just piling into it. Like the game's getting sold digitally, and they couldn't even produce enough digital codes to keep up with the sudden demand. There was some big World of Warcraft streamer that jumped ship because of the Final Fantasy thing, and millions followed.
It's good to see people with short-term memory loss.
Yeah,
just forget about the disaster launch. Or maybe Cyberpunk came
well,
in
they probably
and just
didn't know. I
everyone
mean, it's
forgot.
been 7 years since that game.
Well,
No, sorry,
period.
11 years since it first came out. What am I talking about? Yeah, 11 years. It
11
was a
years.
PS3 game, so I mean, it was
Wow.
long enough that like a Realm Reborn, which is the version I have on the PS3, that's a PS3 title still. It got a PS4 upgrade. It's now got a PS5 upgrade. Like it's huge, and obviously it's on PC as well. So like that game's kind of seen its redemption arc. Do we like these as a general rule? And obviously we're seeing some that work and some that don't. We see smaller scale things in kind of Destiny, for example, when they're responding to fan feedback. If a certain, especially the Activision days, and once Bungie broke loose of Activision, all the things they kind of rolled back and changed.
You're forgetting one of your favorite online
really?
games that you purchased.
Oh,
That you had an
Fallout 76.
I'll say absolute blowout on. Can't believe you forgot about that.
Has that really saved itself yet, though?
But it got better. I wouldn't
Yeah,
say
I've heard it's gotten
saved
better. Yeah, I've definitely heard it's gotten better.
Save itself. That's questionable. But from those days to now, you say it's changed a little.
They added
Would
NPCs
say
and all sorts of
drastically.
things.
And no killing people and all this rubbish.
They even had a battle royale for a while there.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, which
wow.
is closing soon because it wasn't very popular. But apparently it was good, but just not being played by many people, and that's probably unsurprising because a lot of people got the shits with Fallout 76 at first.
Just like you.
Well,
With
just like
your-
me, yeah.
Your expensive purchase
But let's
of the
yeah.
vision.
Everything about that decision I made was incredibly stupid because I never liked Fallout 3, 4, or New Vegas. Like, clearly the Fallout universe is just not for me, and yet I still gave Fallout 76 a crack. But I was thinking, online multiplayer with friends, like that might make it more engaging for me, and it didn't. I hated it.
Oh, that's great.
So, never again. Good thing. Bethesda Game Studios is busy with Starfield and then Elder Scrolls 6. They're not going to put out another Fallout for 50 years. That's good for everyone.
Hey, what was your question before? Forgot.
Look, this kind of trend of I guess,
yes.
digging to, and I guess one example that hasn't worked. The news came out about either early this year or late last year. Anthem. Anthem was one that, obviously, bad start. Not quite Final Fantasy 14 levels of bad, but bad.
Real bad.
Yeah, off the back of Mass Effect Andromeda 2, which, was a letdown in the eyes of a lot of people. Yeah, it was kind of not a piece of shit, but not far from it.
This wasn't great.
Yeah. So then Anthem came out, and it was really badly received. And EA, BioWare kept working on it in the background, but it came to big crunch time, I think. Maybe this time last year. I don't know, 2020 was a bit of a wash in terms of timelines and that sort of thing, so I've kind of lost track of exactly when this happened. But we're talking at least 9, 10, maybe even 12 months ago, where EA and BioWare basically sat down and it was decision time. Like, BioWare had kind of planned out what the giant kind of almost 2.0 No Man's Sky style next thing, which just kind of would rework everything and fix the whole game up. They'd kind of plotted it out and pitched it to EA, and EA ultimately said no. And I think that was because they probably, didn't think it was going to be worth it. It was maybe better to just get BioWare to work on the Legendary Edition and Mass Effect and Dragon Age. But like that's a scenario where the opposite happened. Like they didn't get to invest the time, the love, the money into it to fix the game up. So we can kind of see both sides of the coin, and it is important that those happen. Whereas there's not every story comes out rosy, which maybe leads us to Avengers then, and our two different perspectives on the game. So again, you didn't play it at all. I played the campaign to completion. Quite enjoyed the campaign actually. The campaign's good. But then didn't stick with it after about 2 hours of multiplayer afterwards because I realised it's just, I'm just going to fight the same two dudes over and over again.
Oh, it's one of those type of multiplayer games.
Yeah. I mean, it's in that Destiny, Anthem, Division sort of mold, but they didn't have nearly enough mission variety, so you'd end up just fighting the same guys over and over afterwards. It was not great. Like if you got stuck into the grind and wanted to, if for some reason it clicked or you're just a Marvel stan, then it was right up people's alley. But it wasn't enough for me and a lot of other people, and it was very lucky for Square Enix that they had Final Fantasy VII Remake come out last year for their financials, because they lost millions and millions of dollars on Avengers, and that was thankfully offset by the fact that Final Fantasy VII Remake brought them many more millions of dollars in. But we're kind of at that tipping point now, similar to Anthem with Avengers. They've put out a few little updates. We've seen a few other characters get dropped in. Hawkeye's dropped in there. There's someone else that's gone in as well, and now we're about to get Black Panther with the War for Wakanda expansion. And there's been a lot of positive buzz off the back of some previews that have gone up this week. People are pretty happy with the content there. Do you think that? Oh, and I guess another important thing to note is there was a business deal with Sony last year.
Where's Spider-Man?
Yeah, Spider-Man was supposed to be in there for PlayStation people, and that still hasn't happened yet.
What?
Still to this day, so like if you crack the shits with the game, the free thing that you were supposed to get exclusively for PlayStation, that maybe for PlayStation fans might have made it all better, still hasn't happened yet. So
they sue for that?
There's got to be a point in time, I guess. But I guess unless they straight up, if it never happens, then there probably can be some sort of action, or maybe like, do you remember? So GTA 4 back in the day had a buddy partnership with Xbox. And after having spent all those years with PlayStation for the PS2 trilogy and whatnot, and even 1 and 2 on the PS1, there was an agreement there apparently that was meant PlayStation was going to get something back for this, and so a game called Agent existed. Do you ever remember that one? Was it meant to be a PS3 exclusive?
Oh.
Game died in a similar sort of fashion. So I guess technically, if PlayStation really wanted to be arseholes about it, they shouldn't be. They could still say, hey, you still owe us a game. But, it's never going to happen. So I guess, Sony could, in the similar case, be a bit of an arsehole to Square Enix about it. Hey, you owe us a Spider-Man character. We want this instead, since you're not going to deliver that.
Or maybe Sony's holding off on the Spider-Man character. Who knows?
Yeah, they could be saying, no, the game's shit.
Maybe Square Enix is going, hey, where's Spider-Man? They're like,
yeah, they just won't send them the assets.
No, you're not having them.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's another thing. Like, given the game's kind of shit, or at least perceived to be shit, maybe they don't want to put Spider-Man anywhere near it, because Spider-Man on the PlayStation side of things has a really good reputation with 2018 and Miles Morales. That's a good way to look at it, actually. But anyway, do you think that Avengers can be saved? Is Avengers a positive story? Is it going to be an end, like a crash and burn sort of thing?
Well, I don't think it's going to be positive, going by sounds of your experience with multiplayer and single player stuff. I'm going to say no.
Yep, that's fair.
Unless they do something drastic, I don't see it's going to get better. I know they did their Final Fantasy little game and it went like gangbusters, but I don't think Avengers is going to happen? Why is that? Why you got that look on your face?
No,
You see,
nothing's going wrong. Well,
you see Jennifer like, oh, what's happening? Oh
I
no.
looked weirdly pixelated. People in the watching the video, maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't. I don't know. But then I went over to look at Discord, and it looks like shit. But the like I'm all stuttery and stuff. You are too. But the actual recording is fine. I don't know what's going on. Nothing to worry about. All that panic aside, yeah, no, the recording looks good. Yeah, look, I think you're right. It's gonna be hard for him. This DLC needs to shoot the lights out. Like whatever expectations that Square Enix has for it financially, it needs to well and truly exceed those for them to consider maybe doing more with it afterwards. In my perspective,
I think it's also too because compared to No Man's Sky, No Man's Sky had nothing, and then they improved on top of that. Where with the Avengers game, you've already had a story there, done, gone. So there's nothing else to add on to that except DLC. I don't know if you can add extra characters in, but I don't really think that's gonna save it because pretty sure if you don't read the comics, you're not gonna know any of the other characters that they put in because most of them, I would say, they're
all the other
used,
characters that have dropped into Avengers, man.
Yeah.
I mean, no, they've only lent into the iconic ones. So like your core cast are
Oh, okay.
Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, Hulk, and then the kind of I guess the most the unknown one I guess compared to everything else, maybe because she just hasn't had her own MCU movie yet, was Kamala Khan, like Miss Marvel.
Right.
But you know, even the character since of they've added profile ones again, like Hawkeye and those. So, like everyone knows who these are thanks to the MCU. So they haven't gone down the real path of who the fuck's this guy yet.
Throw it at everyone, going, "Hey, let's put this guy in and this guy." Like,
I don't
who
think
the
they
hell
could
is
afford
that?
to with the game the way it is. You couldn't take the risk. You'd have to go with someone like big hitters
Popular.
over and over and over again. And then I don't know. We'll see what happens from there. Black Panther is voiced by Christopher Judge in this one. So Stargate, God of War as Kratos, boy.
That guy.
Yeah, so like they've lent into in terms of talent, they've gone big.
When you said Stargate, I thought you were talking about that Starfield game by Bethesda. I thought, wait, they have a voice actor for that already?
Nah, I don't know any voice acting for that yet.
I forgot about the TV show Stargate.
Yeah, I never watched Stargate. I know about it. Mum used to watch it a lot, but
it had MacGyver in it. That's all I know.
did it?
Yeah.
Right.
The guy that played MacGyver.
Could you what would they potentially need to do? And obviously you saw the game only from the outside. You didn't play it. What would they need to do with? Let's just say, for example, that War for Wakanda is just kind of more of the same. Maybe it's a bit better, but it's just more of the same. What was missing from Avengers that would get you in? What would Square Enix need to do, or I guess Crystal Dynamics specifically need to do to get you into this?
Make me a video trailer that looks exciting, because that's what the problem was with Avengers. It just looked boring.
Yeah, okay.
From the start. That's pretty much
It's
it.
more
When I
marketing
watched
than anything else.
more marketing, yeah. Because when I watched that first Avengers gameplay trailer or whatever it is, I'm looking at it going,
on A Day and the city's under attack and all that.
I was like, this does not look like a fun game. It looks incredibly boring and repetitive.
Yeah,
Just from that, was it like a 3-4 minute video? It wasn't much, but you just look at it, it's going, no.
Yeah, it's fair. No, I don't blame you there. And I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, what they need to add really needs to bring some heat and some energy. Even if you're not bringing a new character, but you bring in like a new campaign mission or something that involves everyone that's available to you so far, and you can just get out there and do something with some really high stakes that's really interesting. Maybe links into, it's not attached to the MCU because Marvel wouldn't want that the way the game's gone, but that kind of pulls on threads that have been established in the MCU. Like, hey, you remember this guy that was really big in, Warfare? I've just gone blank on the. Let's just say Thanos. Thanos is here and he's gonna Thanos snap Spider-Man into existence maybe since he's not come out yet.
That's how we're gonna see Spider-Man dead in Thanos' hands. Just throw him across the screen. There's Spider-Man for you, PlayStation owners.
That'll work. I can get around that.
Did they say on this? Did they say on the thing it was a playable
gave 'em to you.
Spider-Man or just that was going to
Dead
have
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man?
Yeah, shit. I like that.
There's a loophole there somewhere.
Yeah, they can take advantage of it for sure. But yeah, like lean into big profile characters from the MCU and make something high stakes and really interesting in that space, and then you might get people back. That seems to fit in line with kind of what you described, and it's kind of how I feel as well. Like, give me something really high stakes, because the campaign itself was actually decent. It was a bit basic in a lot of ways, but it was pretty decent. It was, and I think they've kind of worked on it a little bit in the 12 months since. But if you're trying to go into this games as service thing, like a Destiny or a Division or something like that, you need to give people a lot to do afterwards, and that's the thing they didn't do. There was probably like 2 or 3 different things, and that was it. And you just grind those 2 or 3 different things for as long as you wanted to get to level 150. I'm not sure many people did that. There's obviously some mega fans that did, and they've got their platinum trophies or their 1,000 gamer scores or whatever for having maxed everyone out. There's always fanatics for every single game. Maybe even Superman 64. Maybe people shitty that A Realm Reborn came out for Final Fantasy 14 because they loved the original. But no, probably not. But no. Like, there's fans of everything, so like those people will be happy as well. But just give people more to do. Seems pretty simple for Avengers anyway.
Give them some fun. That's all people want in a game.
Yeah, lots of fun, lots of action.
Lots of fun and action, and
that's what it should be
up.
from an Avengers thing too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Should be nice and easy.
It's just right there for you.
Yeah.
Fun. Beat up. Go watch a Batman game.
It should be unbelievably easy, but they've not made it easy at all.
I mean, maybe they should go watch Spider-Man, get some tips from
old
Spidey.
Go speak to Insomniac. They'll teach you a thing or two.
So what do you need? More people to punch up. Done.
Yeah. Make sure you get the puddles right. The internet hates it when you get your puddles wrong.
Oh, puddle. Don't talk about the puddles.
Puddlegate.
Oh, I completely forgot about that.
Good times. Fuck the internet.
That's what I thought. It's like, if anyone gets angry, like, oh, this looks terrible, I just always think to myself, just put a puddle in there, it'll make them happy. Doesn't matter what it is.
Spidey over there. It's fantastic. Don't anyone you speak ill of fucking puddles.
Well, if you can't get Spider-Man in your Avengers game, get a puddle. It'll make everyone happy.
Get a really good puddle, and you say, look, our puddles are better than Spider-Man's, and everyone seemed to lose their shit over that. So come on over.
Want to improve Cyberpunk? Put it in a puddle.
Get the puddles right. Oh, I hate the internet.
Be more puddles than people.
Let's wrap things up. Puddles are just gonna upset us all.
Please
let us know in the comments what you actually think. Whether any of that, like, there's anything they could do that will make Cyberpunk or Avengers more appealing to you.
And how many puddles is not enough puddles?
Yeah, exactly. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, all the buttons down below. Hit the notification bell. That way you're alerted to every new video the moment it goes live on the channel. That includes Patched, Player 2 Plays, Gamer School, and a whole bunch more. There's some awesome stuff there, so please subscribe and go and check it out. Visit the website player2.net.au for reviews, previews, opinion pieces, news, features, links to the podcast series, Patched, the Player 2 Pixelcast, and Dev Diary. Some awesome developers on recently. Friend of the show, John O'Peck, was on, and there's heaps more to come in the future. We're also on Patreon, patreon.com/player2au, kicking a few bucks. Lower tiers, early access. Higher tiers, monthly episode exclusives. And finally, there's Twitter. Matto?
Matto_Phil.
Paul James Games for me. The website's player2au. And until next time, maybe Damo will just be here randomly. We'll see. Let us know what you think about Avengers. See you guys.
And puddles.
See ya.